Good afternoon, and welcome to Coral Gables Lowe's Hotel. It's great to see the faces around the room. I'm very excited to see a lot of familiar faces, old friends, and new faces, and very excited to see this come together. When Barry and I talked about this along with Shelley and Tom Hood, who's not here with us, about this particular event, one of my initiatives when I assumed the chairmanship of the FICPA, which, by the way, for those who don't know me, I'm sorry, I'm Ed Duarte, chair of the FICPA. I'm also CFO for a company here in Miami called Foreign Parts Distributors. So I've been involved with the FICPA for quite some time. And when I started my chairmanship in July, one of the initiatives I've had is to try to have an event like this where we can, educate the corporate finance leaders of South Florida, what we have to offer as the FICPA, and then joining forces with the AICPA. So I also serve on the Future of Finance Leadership Academy, an advisory group with Barry, and I know Paul is here, and Andre from Graham Companies is here as well. So if I miss somebody, apologies. But to see the amount of people that are in this room is truly grateful. I have the tremendous gratitude to see everybody that's here, and I appreciate your support. And we have a great event here talking about finding and upskilling finance talent. So we have some good presenters, and we're gonna have a fireside chat. It's gonna be very open and informative, and I think you're really going to benefit and enjoy from this. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to introduce our man of the hour, Barry Payne with the AICPA.
I am not the man of the hour in the slightest, Ed. You're the man of the hour. Thank you so much for everything that you do, and to FICPA for this wonderful invitation where we're going to be talking to you about the biggest priority on our minds at the moment, which is cultivating and upskilling talent. I'm going to say a few words just to anchor our conversation, and then I'm going to invite my dear colleague Faith up to join me to talk to you about a program that we're very, very proud of. Don't think you're going to get away with just listening to me. I want to see hands, faces, and I want you to speak, not with your mouth full. But anyway, so Ed mentioned this group that my colleague Tom and I put together about 4 years ago. It's called the Future of Finance Group, and I want to tell you a story about that group and why it brings us to where we are today. So about 4 years ago, we sat and we called as many members as we possibly could, working for some pretty cool companies, and we asked them simply, how are you? And a couple of really cool things happened. Number one, they all accepted our calls, which is good. Number two, it took a long time to get to the question of how are you and the way they answered it. Remember where we were like 4, 5 odd years ago as well, and what we were enduring as a world. But we had tremendously rich conversations about what was going on in the world of the CFO, and by extension, the advisors, of course, that work with them. But it was all one-to-one, and we thought we were missing a thing here. Why don't we get them all together and create a group which can kind of help us in the profession reimagine and redefine the role of accounting and finance in the commercial and the corporate space. And that is what we've done. And this is just an example of some of the companies on the group that Ed mentioned, and I would like to personally thank Ed, Andre, and of course Paul here, who you'll be seeing in a moment up here with our virtual fireside, talking about his experiences of the group and talent at large. Now, this group meets every couple of months, virtual, physical, and we actually have a summit every year where we invite a larger bunch of people. And every time we meet, we poll and elicit feedback on the big priorities for you as a group. And these are the priorities from the summit that was held in December in San Diego. National results from a cross-section of CFOs and controllers. I don't think that there's any surprise here, but there is one thing that I would like to note based off of the conversations that I've been having around the lunch, is maybe that number 5 may need to be promoted a little higher for South Florida. Now, I'm only I'm only going from what you guys have been saying to me, but every single person that I've spoke to so far, Shelley, has said that there are challenges in finding and upskilling and retaining talent, which is good news because that's what we're going to be talking about. And there's one particular individual over there, I'm terrible with names, that was talking about the confluence of technology and talent and how we can upskill people with advances in technology eroding the entry-level work that's being done. So you're in the right place. We're talking about talent. We're talking about upskilling. We're going to have a really good conversation about some really cool ideas today. But with that comes this notion of what I like to call mindset, skill set, and tool set. Let me share a very brief story. So this was about 3 years ago, and I called up a CFO and I asked the CFO, how are you? And 20 minutes later, I got a word in edgeways. And remember, this was like 3 or 4 years ago. And he said to me, Barry, I'm really, really excited. We're going to be implementing Ultrix. By the way, I'm agnostic about different applications. That's what he just told me. I'm really excited about the investment we're going to make. It's brilliant. And then I asked, what I thought was a stupid question at the time. I asked him, how does the business feel about this? You know, what results are you looking to achieve? How do business partners feel? How do your staff feel about using this? I mean, how's their way of working going to change as a result? And I'm laying this on you as a story, so I'm sort of embellishing the truth. But there was a long silence that ensued. And he said, well, Barry, you know what I've been really focused on? Is bringing this bright, shiny thing into my business and not so much about how it's going to be embedded in the culture. So we talk a lot about creating that mindset and that environment and that culture for upskilling, that curiosity within your business and focusing on the key skills that are going to take us forward in parallel with the bright, shiny things that we're going to implement. And this is a survey from KPMG. It's the best report, by the way, people, that no one has ever read. Let me tell you why. It came out in March of 2020. Little did we know at the time that that was going to be the case. But it remains the best read report, I think, in our portfolio, because really it's focused on creating that mindset and identifying those skills that we need in order to develop folks going forward. And really, I think for any CFO or any controller or any business that serves that constituency, we all effectively want to strive to provide a service that's as valuable as possible to our business that affects the best decisions that our business wants to take and the risks that we want to manage. We like to call it from scorekeeper to value partner. And yes, you know, technology is allowing us to be more effective and efficient. We have to make sure that we have the skills that people understand, the basic, got to say it, debits and credits, and the basic T's, more about the T in a second. But it's really about generating insight and giving people the capability to understand the business, develop insight, give them the basic mechanics, and then moving to the left where they can really influence and impact decisions. More about that definitely when Paul speaks. But talking about T's, this model is a really, really cool model. And for those of you in the audience that have T's on your mind, this has got nothing to do with T accounts. I thought that would get a laugh. Please laugh. Do you remember T accounts? I've been warming you up, you see, with the debits and the credits. But this is Paul knows this, and Ed. This is a product of our future of finance work with the group, where what we wanted to do is two things. We absolutely, isn't this right? We didn't want to be a talking shop. Don't you hate just talking and not doing anything about it? And B, we wanted to create specific actions that we could make CFOs and their teams and the profession stronger. And really that's why we're here today, to talk about a particular example that's come out of the group. But it's founded on this notion of the T-shaped professional. And the way that this works, very briefly, is that you've got the deep skills of the T which are the absolute must-haves. They're whatever the functional technical skills that you need, whether it's everything or whether it's specific to treasury, tax, FP&A, controllership, what have you. And then an increasing level of data curiosity and technological curiosity. Those are the absolute must-haves. Of course, founded on that notion of ethics, integrity, and professionalism. But what is coming more into vogue these days is the horizontal part of the T. We call them a number of things. We call them boundary crossing competencies. We call them success skills. And the ability to marry the deep with the wide. Because when we poll our Future of Finance group to some of the most important skills that they need to lean into, it is things like critical thinking. It is things like communication and storytelling, of which I'm doing a very bad job of here. We're doing, collaborating across different parts of the business and being able to give independent judgment around those things. We need to find a way to be able to marry the deep skills that we're developing that are absolutely fundamental to us being there with the wide boundary crossing skills.
I only like to keep AICPA on their toes when they come to Florida, right? No, I just was telling Faith that based on some of the conversations that I was having with some of you during our reception, I just wanted to take a quick moment and provide a quick 30,000-foot view of what we're doing relative to pipeline, because we're going to focus on one particular area today, but I want to make sure that everybody knows there's a lot of things going on that we are working on at the Institute at both the state and the national level. We won't dive deep into all of these areas today, but rest assured, we're happy to follow up with further information in all these different categories. So first and foremost, for those that I have not had the pleasure to meet, I'm Shelley Weir. I'm the president and CEO of the Florida Institute of CPAs. So pleased to be here today in Miami, in one of our very best markets around the state. So at FICPA about a year ago, we launched something called our 5-point pipeline promise. And it's our commitment to you all as employers and stewards and partners in the profession to help you with your talent needs. And there are, as you would imagine, 5 pillars to our 5-point pipeline promise. One of them is reaching K through 12 students. A second one is providing scholarships and support. The third is pairing employers with new talent. The fourth is expanding access to licensure on the CPA side. And the fifth is cultivating future leaders, which is what we're going to be focusing on today with our apprenticeship program. But just very briefly, on the K through 12 side, I was just chatting with Monica a little bit about this. Every year we go out and do Accounting Opportunities Week and go into the high schools all across the state and educate them on the amazing profession that is the CPA and accounting profession, both on the public and the private side of the aisle. We also are funders of a social media campaign called the Accounting Plus Initiative. If you are not familiar with it, it is a TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram social media effort specifically targeted to the high school students in simple terms, using language that they want to see and on the places that they get their information. If you had told me when I was in high school that I'd be getting career advice on TikTok, I mean, who even knew what that was? Back in the day, but that's the reality of the situation, right? Many of you have teenagers and that's where they go to get their information. So we have a massive social media campaign effort that is rooted in research, utilizing the messages that we know that Generation Z, what's resonating with them to have them view accounting and finance as cool and sexy and as a sustainable career. So I definitely encourage you all as employers to take a look at that and utilize it in your own recruitment efforts as well. Our 501c3 foundation does a phenomenal job of providing financial support through the entire career of someone's trajectory to becoming either a CPA or a CPA and a CFO and controller, depending on their career journey. And then from a pairing employers with new talent, we have about 10 or 15 events that we produce across the state every year that directly bring in thousands of students to events where you all as employers can meet and greet them in partnership with our college and university partners. This is especially important for some of our smaller colleges and universities whom you all may not have the bandwidth to be able to go out and physically go to their campuses. every year to visit. I'm not talking about our friends at FIU or Obviously, they participate as well, but some of the smaller campuses that you're not able to get to, we'll bring them to you. On the licensure side, we have a number of different programs to help folks get licensed. And then today, we're going to be talking about cultivating future leaders into this next generation of talent. So taking them from the entry level and getting them upskilled and skilled in the appropriate way so that you can retain them and have a highly skilled individual working on your teams. So just wanted to provide that quick color because I'd had some great conversations with a few of you prior to starting today. So I'll turn it back over to my dear friend Faith, who's going to focus in on our apprenticeship programs. For our corporate finance folks in the aisle, or in the room, these are programs that you can directly implement and support at your organizations. For our public accounting folks that are in the room, either on behalf of your clients, or we have had firms also express interest in this for their advisory side practice too. So just to give you that color before Faith begins. And I'll be back in a little bit, okay? All right, thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. What I'll be sharing with you now is some information about how you and your organization can find and upskill your workforce in a time-tested training called Registered Apprenticeship. Oh, which way am I going?
It's all right. I'll do it for you. The service I provide.
Okay, thank you. Registered Apprenticeship is basically where tradition meets the future of workforce development. A lot of times when people hear apprenticeship, you're going to think of the traditional trades with the construction and plumbers and electricians. However, this tested and unique tool of training can be used in more than just the traditional trades. That's why non-traditional occupations such as healthcare, education, IT, cyber, and now accounting and finance have joined this movement and created an apprenticeship program that can provide a recruiting tool and an upskilling environment for your organization. Registered apprenticeship is basically composed of three main components. You have the on-the-job training, which includes mentorship to work with apprentices, related instruction, and a progressive wage scale. The related instruction is going to support the on-the-job competencies that apprentices are learning, and then the progressive wage scale is going to reward those apprentices as they obtain new skills through an apprenticeship program. Currently, we have two registered apprenticeship programs. Each of them are stackable upon the other. The first is for an accounting and finance associate. That is essentially a one-year program and leads to a certificate in accounting and finance. And then our second one is up to a three-year program, finance business partner, and that leads to our CGMA designation. You can start at one and have it build on to the next program. Also, to share or to add on to what Shelley was sharing earlier, is we are also working with a high school program and starting students in their junior and senior year, learning the occupation and having hands-on experience and having exposure to the related instruction that these apprenticeships offer. As a quick overview, this is just a sample of the on-the-job training or on-the-job learning requirements and competencies. This is what the apprentice would do either with their manager or with their mentor on the job throughout the length of their program. And next, this shows you the starting point of our finance leadership program, the FLP. This is where apprentices start and do their self-paced program online and start at different levels. The first apprenticeship that we offer is the one-year program starts at the foundation level and continues on to the operational level, while our three-year program continues on through 2 more levels. Barry, did you want to share any other information about the FLP? No? Okay. So this information here was put together through what we've learned from the industry and what the employers are looking for and what they need to build and retain their staff. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's important. The only thing that I wanted to mention is that this program is very tailorable to the talent that's working for you. So with this, for example, if you've got individuals that, for example, have a relevant degree in accounting and finance, and actually even, for example, a CPA, then they'll receive credits through this learning, and their learning journey will be expedited. But like, for example, if you're looking more at a strategy for bringing in people with no experience from, other backgrounds, then, they would start off obviously earlier on in the program with an exit point after that operational level. That takes about a year. And as Faith said, this large one here, the finance business partner, takes up to 3 years. But I wanted to come up and just show you this because can you just put your hand up if you are representing a firm of public accountants here today? Yeah, good. We're absolutely grateful that you're here. And Shelly mentioned we've got a great cross-section, I think, of the South Florida CPA community here today. We've been emphasizing a lot CFO, controller, business environment, but we'd like you to consider how this could work within your sphere of influence, but also within your own businesses. And I've kind of just put up a few bullets there about how we have a conversation with firms, especially if you have like an outsourced accounting service, client accounting service, advisory function, whatever you want to call it, non-audit attest. To us, you're just an extension of the client. So we'd love to have a conversation with you in exactly the same way. And we know there are like talent shortages and talent and upskilling pinches in your industry as well. And it's even more competitive. And I was speaking to Monica earlier on that everything that we're talking about now, other than maybe a few state-related things with the apprenticeship, can be applicable overseas. So what you see can be deployed in the likes of like what we talked about, Costa Rica, Colombia, Argentina, whatever. So there's that in terms of, looking at this to help invest in upskilling and recruiting people from different backgrounds for that side of your practice. But then obviously, you've got clients out there that this could be a really, really interesting conversation to have with them around, some of their talent needs, which would, help us all in terms of the service that you provide. So I just wanted to mention that, Faith. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I am going to do a much better job now at handing over to Shelley again, and also Paul Young, and they're going to have a really, really good, more detailed chat on upskilling and some of the experiences that Paul has had at Liberty.
Back in 2017, we had an opportunity to create and register an apprenticeship program for the hotel sector back when Obama was in office. And at the time, as Faith mentioned, apprenticeship was really only being used primarily in the trade sectors, and they wanted to grow it into new industries. And so, hospitality kind of stepped into the fold, and we created a hotel manager apprenticeship program. And then flash forward, President Trump took over for his first term, and I always joke this was like the one thing that Trump and Obama agreed on, was that they both supported apprenticeship. And it really just continued to grow from there, and I had the honor of serving under the president on several task forces to help expand it across different businesses. But I share all of this with you because I've seen firsthand how transformational apprenticeship programs can be for someone's workforce. And while I recognize fully that the hotel industry, not quite the same thing as our fantastic profession here in finance and the CPA profession, what is the same is the need to find, retain, and upskill talent. And so, ironically, a lot of the skills that you see on the screen here were very much a part of our hotel programs as well. So a little bit of kind of the outcomes of that. I'm so sorry, I've got the pollen. Sorry, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair-elect. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, guys. The pollen's bothering me today. Okay. A little bit of the outcomes of what we saw from a success factor in the hotel industry. We started the program in 2017, and within a year, it had expanded to about 400 hotel properties across the country. By the time that I ended my tenure at AHLA, almost every single major hotel brand had adopted the program. And I don't know if you guys know this, but hospitality has a little bit of a problem with retention, right? It is the highest turnover sector in the nation and probably the world from an employee retention perspective. And we were able to have a 92% retention rate with this program. So when I say it was transformative for the hotel industry, it significantly transformed the way that that profession thought about attracting, retaining, and upskilling talent. And so when AICPA mentioned that they were bringing an apprenticeship program to the finance space, I said, sign us up. We want to make sure that we're bringing this to Florida because we've seen firsthand how amazing this can be. So with that, I'm so excited to have Paul here, a fellow employer that has implemented these types of programs, to share a little bit about how they did it, and what it looked like for the bank, and share some words of wisdom with you all. So Paul, just first tell us a little bit about who you are,
Sure.
where you work, what you're in charge of, all of those
All right,
things.
sure. Yeah, Paul Young. I'm the CFO of Liberty Bank. Liberty Bank is based in Middletown, Connecticut. I live in New Jersey, but work in Connecticut. Try to represent both states there. But Liberty is the oldest and largest independent mutual bank in the country. And I used to joke around when I joined 5.5 years ago, my job was not to screw it up so that we lasted to 200 years. And on May 4th, I think we've just about accomplished that. May 4th, we're going to celebrate 200 years. But it's been quite a journey in the 5.5 years there. I'm a CPA. I've been brought up, through T accounts, debit and credit accounting, and I really came up through the ranks, went to night school to get my degree, and eventually got into financial services and banking. I came to Liberty Bank from Citizens Bank. You may know Citizens, they're a super regional, where I was the CFO of their consumer deposit group and their business banking group, and also their digital bank, Citizens Access. We raised about $5 billion of deposits in 5 months with that digital bank. Before that, I was with TD Bank for a number of years. I met Thomas at our table. I was the head of U.S. strategy and corporate development for TD Bank at one time, and then for a few years, I was also the CFO of their U.S. lines of business. But when the opportunity came up at Liberty Bank, I jumped all over it because it was a bank in transition. There was a new CEO there, David Glidden, who actually I had known from my time at TD Bank. He was the president of Northern New England, and he had come into what was the reputation of a sleepy bank. Being a mutual bank, it's easy to not hold yourself to high performance standards. There's pros and cons of being a private bank, but David basically wanted to transform the bank. So when he reached out to me, it was really an exciting opportunity. I didn't realize how heavy a lift it was going to be, but it certainly is something where, sort of trial by fire, where it was the best career move that I've made. So yeah, terrific to be part of Liberty Bank, to be able to talk about our transformation journey and a little bit about the upskilling and the apprenticeship program, because that was really something that made a huge difference. I inherited a finance team that needed a lot of improvement. And obviously when there's a new CEO and a new CFO in place, there's a lot of change, and not everybody was opting into that change, because although we're not, public, and we're not grinding towards eking out another penny of EPS every quarter, we were still challenging ourselves to be a high-performing bank. And a lot of people weren't used to that. We have a defined benefit pension program, so it was talked about that people were kind of retiring on the job. So, making that transition, not everybody was accepting it in the beginning, and those that were didn't really have the skill sets to take the organization where we needed to be. And that's when the apprenticeship program came into play. So.
Love that. So let's double click on that just for a little bit. So you come into this, you have new executive leadership, you're assessing and you're realizing, like I know probably so many in the room have seen, our skills are not quite matching.
Right.
What our workforce skills are not matching what we need them to be.
Yeah.
What immediately what drew you to the apprenticeship idea first?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about kind of how you implemented it.
So we were, a lot of people were, I thought there was a lot of potential when I assessed the team. It's just that they weren't asked to do more, and they weren't being provided the tool sets to be able to perform at the level. For example, accountants, which were closer to scorekeepers on the model that that Barry presented, probably not great scorekeepers because we didn't even know what the score was. It's dependent upon who you asked because we did not have one source of the truth. So data was another issue. So that wasn't so much skill sets, but there was that struggle where they were debit and credit accountants and not financial analysts. And how do you make that transition? So we had to build out a whole new FP&A team. And actually, it was great for the employees that were in the accounting group because then they were able to focus on their jobs and to be better at their jobs and how do we upskill them. So part of it was just assessing what it was we needed as far as building out the functions that needed to be performed. So we didn't have a separate strategy area. I basically had treasury and accounting, and we didn't have procurement, we didn't have financial planning analysis, enterprise project management. We really had to build out investor relations. We really had to build out our operational and strategic planning. So in the beginning, it was just setting that up. Now, COVID came in, so that exacerbated everything, right? Because now we're trying to do that remote. And we come back from COVID, and we're making progress, but it's slow. I cannot promote from within, right? So I'm struggling with the fact that as we have turnover, which is an issue, I can't promote we're going outside, and it's taking 6 to 9 months, and I'm paying recruiting fees. So it's very expensive, and making sure that you get the cultural fit was challenging as well. So I'm a member of the Future Finance Leadership Advisory Group as well. And I was in spring of 2022, I was at an FLAG meeting in Durham, and they started to talk about this new apprenticeship program. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly the program that I need. I actually told Barry, I like to joke around from the Jerry Maguire movie, he had me at hello. I was basically you're Tom Cruise in that scenario, Barry. You don't complete me, but the program does. So I was like, seriously, I was like, next week, let's go. It wasn't quite next week, but we had our first call the following week. And by late that fall, we were able to start the program. And so maybe a little bit about the program. The way that we started the program is I asked for volunteers. They weren't voluntold. I really wanted volunteers. So I was really focused in the beginning on existing staff and how do we upskill the existing staff. Get that strategic mindset, the critical thinking, the analytical skills, the storytelling. How do we do that with existing staff? And I was surprised that we had 8 members from all different disciplines within the group volunteer to sign up. I called them the Grade 8, and they were the initial sign up. Now that was a good title for a bunch of guinea pigs that we had that were going to try to start this program, but they were happy. They accepted it. And that was the beginning of something that I think was really great. I think from a morale perspective, it helped them as well because they saw that it was a nationally recognized program. In November of that year, Tom Hood invited me during National Apprenticeship Week in Chicago to join him at Aon headquarters where then Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh formally announced the new program, recognizing the Department of Labor, recognizing the apprenticeship program as a registered finance business partner apprenticeship program. So that was an inflection point. They're like, oh my God, I signed up and I'm part of this. And they're looking at the White House feed where Marty Walsh also mentions Little Liberty Bank, right? I got JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo in the back row, and I'm in the front row. And it's like, because we embraced this program, it was terrific. So, and I think the fact that, in private accounting, there are a lot of folks there, teammates that don't aspire to be CPAs. They're not going to go into a career in public accounting. And this was a designation, a designation that was nationally recognized, internationally recognized as a chartered global management accountant. And I think that really put pep in their step. That here's something, well, okay, I'm not going to be a CPA, but I can be a CGMA. So I think that was really resonated with them as well. And then to make the program successful, we wanted to make sure that it's a long journey. It can take 18, 24 months, even longer as you're going through. You saw the diagram that Faith and Barry shared as you're going through each of the different levels. Now, the 8 volunteers that I had all started at different levels. I had some at the operational level, some at the management level, and then I had one person at the strategic level. And we made sure that we celebrated their success through town hall meetings, newsletters, and then we added in, as they passed each level, we provided them with the cash bonus. So that helps too, right? So I think that really has kept them motivated, because it's a lot of work as they go through that. So we want them to enjoy the journey and to celebrate success. So that's how we got into it, and that's sort of like a little bit of the way that we initially rolled it out.
Well, and I love what you said, because typically I do see a lot of employers when they're thinking about starting a program like this, I do always advise start with some existing employees.
Yeah, right.
Some existing superstars that you don't want to lose, that you want to invest your time and energy in, and let's get them, upskilled in a way that helps both the company and the individual. And the individual will appreciate the commitment to training and development for them personally. So for the employers in the room, let's kind of dumb this down just a little bit, not to use a rude phrase, but as Faith mentioned, there is an on-the-job training component, and then there is related instruction, which AICPA has what I always like to call almost a program in a box, where any employer in the room can adopt the program. It's, to Barry's point, it can be adaptable and flexible within any size and type of employer. So you start the program, you have your on-the-job training assignments, you're using the online education instruction, which is helping to reinforce what they learn. How did you guys go about kind of the day-to-day? How did you implement it? Because I'm sure at first it was a little, how do I even start
How do we even start? So the AICPA was great because we had introduction sessions, getting used to the platform. Some of the lessons learned related to the way that we did it. There's always wrinkles, especially when you're among the first in the country using something like that. Is from an IT perspective, it was really on our end. We had a lot of IT issues where employees couldn't access the program internally because of firewalls. And then when we resolved that, we had issues where they couldn't see the questions. And we thought it was really important, and part of the way we implemented it is because it is a large commitment. I would estimate 8 to 10 hours by an employee a week. That's what we recommend. We carved out with our managers, we made sure that we carved out with the apprentices that we give everyone an hour a day. And that hour a day they spend on studying. That's why access was so important. So one of the lessons learned was, before you implement, make sure you got your IT working to make sure it was on our end, but the AICPA helped us resolve it. But that 8 to 10 hours is important. So if you're able to do 1 hour a day, then that's only another 4 or 5 hours that they either have to do on the weekend or at nights to be able to prepare. So that helped a lot, I think, as we rolled it out. The other way we implement, the other thing that it wasn't an issue, but it was one of the positives on how we implemented it was mentorship. I think mentorship is critically important as they go through the program. So I mentored the candidate that was at the strategic level and the candidates at the operational level. And then I had another leader in my group mentor the students at the operational level. So the mentoring, I think, helped a lot, knowing that there's somebody there that can help them through it and provide guidance that wasn't their direct boss, right? So that they could be honest and share their feelings on what they were experiencing as they went through it. Another thing that was good is, I think, because we had people at different levels, they had their own little self-study groups, right, which was good. Okay. So they were sharing what they were learning at the same time. So I think that was really effective. What I wish we would have done, which would have eased it, especially in the beginning, is that Kaplan provides great online courses that help them go through the program. We didn't have access to those in the beginning, and it really made a great difference in the employee experience and the learning experience. Having those online classes, if you can't attend online, they're taped. So then you can join via tape, and that really helps you as you're going through and preparing for the exam. When you graduate from each area, you get to take a case study exam. And that's what's really great about it, because it's real life experiences, right? So you're learning while you're earning on the job, but you're also contributing to creating value in the organization, because you're applying those skills while in your day-to-day job. And that's where you talked about the on-the-job training and the competencies and making sure the managers are connected with employees is really important as well. So I think the Kaplan classes at the beginning, combined with mentorship and combined with carving out the time, the 8 to 10 hours a week, at least 1 hour a day, and knowing what's expected and making sure that they're volunteers. Right. And usually, like you mentioned, high-performing employees. I think that was critical as well. Then we created we deviated a little bit, Shelley, and we created an offshoot program utilizing the finance leadership program, because originally I was talking about upskilling existing employees, but we had a problem because we had a reputation as a sleepy bank. It was hard to go from the outside and say, oh, I want to join Liberty Bank. We were not even close to an employer of choice. So I was creating a CFO rotational program where employees spend 3 to 6 months going through each of the different areas within the CFO group. So they spend time in treasury, financial planning and analysis, accounting, procurement, enterprise project management, strategy, investor relations, and they go through all those groups. And what I decided to do was, I called it my Reese's Peanut Butter Cup strategy. I took 2 great programs, the apprenticeship program and the CFO rotational program, and I put them together to make something even better. And I think that really was a differentiator in the marketplace, because as we were interviewing for new apprentices, trying to create new pathways, and you don't necessarily have to have an accounting degree, right? Which we're trying to expand the talent pipeline. That made a big difference. We were able, the first CFO rotational apprentice we brought in was somebody who was a supervisor in our branch network. There's a lot of, being in banking, there's a lot of talent in our branches, tellers, supervisors, assistant supervisors, managers, and we wanted to create that pathway into finance for them. So Shao Stevens was the first employee from the branch network to move into that program. And she was ready to leave the bank. She would have left the bank because she really wanted to move into finance, but she didn't see how she could get in. And she's been like a rising star for us. She just passed the operational level, and now she's moving into the management level. So Shao has just been a terrific success story. And then externally, we also were able to recruit somebody that was very highly recruited. Darryl Bonner was captain of the Navy football team, was a decorated Marine, and was looking to transition into private life. And he was very highly recruited by banks in the northern New England area. And he interviewed with us, and he says that the reason he chose Liberty Bank out of all the other offers was because of this program. Mm-hmm. So it really is a competitive advantage in the marketplace, and it helps us to become, and on our journey to become an employer of choice. And we've since hired somebody else from our branch network, another teller. Matt Reed came in through our branch network. He was actually part of our he was a part-time teller, part of our summer intern program. Met Darryl during his summer internship, graduated the next year, and we were able to bring him in. So just terrific as far as being able to take the apprenticeship program and combine it with other talent-related initiatives to be able to attract diverse talent from outside the organization.
Well, and I love what you just said, because I'm thinking about, some of our friends from cruise lines and others that are in the room, and we're all looking for that finance and accounting talent, but you actually looked outside of the finance and accounting department within the company to say,
create
hey,
those pathways.
These are people that I could see have potential. They have the right work ethic. They show the right motivation, whatever it might be. So that also gets me excited, because to your point, they don't have to have an accounting degree. They don't have to have a finance degree.
Darryl is a political science major, and Shao's a psychology major. Now that helps a lot in the finance group. EQ is really important. It's helped me a lot.
I think that would be across the board in the room today. That's great. Okay, so you started with the existing employees. You had your initial class of 8. You've since moved on to recruiting new employees, so truly using the program as a recruitment tool. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like. So you're putting it in the job postings. What are you selling when you're either on college campuses or what have you, as far as attracting people in? Yeah,
it's been terrific. We make sure on the job description, we talk about the rotational program, and that's really a part that's very attractive, is they get that diversity within the overall finance organization. And it's a permanent position. It's just a matter of, after the rotation, we decide based upon discussions with them as they're going through it, where they're going to land as far as when they graduate from the program and they're no longer going through each of the different groups. We're very deliberate in the job descriptions in that we talk about the diversity of experience. So for FP&A, we'll talk about how you're going to partner with your business and the importance of analytical skills and communication skills. Then we'll also have in there around treasury, like you're going to learn about asset and liability management. How does a bank make money? How do we fund a bank? When we look at accounting, we talk about doing research on different accounting pronouncements, and from a technical accounting perspective, then also understanding the financial close and contributing to that process. We've just recently have added in to help champion generative AI initiatives across the bank, because I think digital skills, and we really emphasize digital skills there, adaptability, being able to embrace change. We put all of our employees throughout the bank through change management just because we think it's so important right now. So we make sure that we highlight that in the job descriptions. On campuses, I think we share a couple of the slides that you share today. We talk about the competency frameworks, and we talk about the fact that you don't necessarily have to have a college degree. And I think that's resonated with a lot as well, a lot of candidates as well. We've got one apprenticeship position open right now. I've got 30 resumes.
Wow.
And they're good and they're strong candidates. So whereas in the past, I'm begging, like, well, where can I find somebody? Let me call up the nearest recruiter and help me out, and I'm gonna pay a fee. Now it's like, wow, like I have to think about, okay, maybe that apprentice isn't good right now, but maybe in the fall when we have the next position open, right? So it really is building up a pipeline, and the summer internship program has helped as well. We also just, Faith and Barry did flash up there the associate apprenticeship program. Which is a one-year program where you can have a high school diploma. We just hired the first associate apprentice into the group. That's really more for accounting. So they're not rotating through the different areas, but that's somebody that is just finished their freshman year in college, going towards a business degree that we were able to bring in. And you can have, bless you, you can have 1 year it's a one-year program, and it's sort of like temporary from a pay perspective, but we bring them in as permanent employees. So we brought Nair Johnson in as a permanent employee that came through that program. Now, interestingly enough, that was a difficult one to find. We were really, because of just coming out of high school or early in college, how do you attract those students? When we were going out to the different universities and colleges, it was like, it was hard to get candidates to apply for that. But I think that will change as the program starts to resonate. But just, I guess, getting candidates out of high school and working with, that's going to take some time with guidance counselors to be able to attract them. We're also working with the Connecticut Department of Children and Family Services to see, are there candidates there from that are high school that are just looking for an opportunity, and maybe we can get them into this associate apprenticeship program. So
that's exactly
trying
where
to attack it from that end as well.
And that's where I was going to go next. We have such a robust community. I'm going to come to you right now. Such a robust community here in South Florida of between two-year colleges, high schools, Goodwill, Junior Achievement, all of these different entities that probably have some partners in the room right now that could help to identify folks that could be great candidates. Again, that don't come from maybe traditional backgrounds and maybe don't have, again, that traditional college degree experience. A great opportunity to expand. Coming to you now, ma'am. Sorry. Yes, come on. So there's two different, I'm going to use financial incentive in air quotes, because I always recommend, I don't ever recommend adopting a training and development program simply because money is available. So that's my caveat across the board, always, the Shelley. So because this is a registered apprenticeship program and because it comes from the U.S. Department of Labor, it activates the ability for employers to tap into federal funding to support the training costs and support the development of these employees. Some of that funding may come from AICPA through different grants that they have. Some might come from workforce investment funds. You have to kind of navigate that component of it, but it's a great value add addition for those that are interested in exploring that type. From the apprentice perspective, apprenticeship programs only work when there is a progressive wage increase. So the idea is always, okay, if the typical position that I'm hiring for, I'm just going to make a number up for ease of conversation, is paid $100,000, you might hire an apprentice for $70,000 to start and then work their way through the program, and up they go. And they'll get wage increases appropriately across the way.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
Yeah. We kind of structure it like we have senior apprentices that are at the higher level, and then we have apprentices that are starting more at the operational level that are making less. The fees charged by the AICPA is reasonable for public companies that for profit organizations. It's part of our overall investment in talent strategy. Some of the things we talked about in FLAG was the risk of not investing, right? So, to me, like teammates is one of our strategic pillars in investing in teammates. And there's the old story that goes around about the CFO, N-O, that when HR is coming to him with investments in talent, goes to the CEO and says, they want to invest all this money in teammates. What happens if we do when they leave?
Right.
And the CEO says, well, what happens if we don't and they stay? Exactly, you know it, right? So the real answer is the CFO, K-N-O-W,
yes,
right, is the one who realizes that you make those investments in employees, prioritize those investments, and you develop them so they can leave, but you treat them so well that they want to stay with the organization. So from a private perspective, I think that's important. And I think, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I also forgot to mention too, I'm so sorry, my brain just added a third thought. The program is also registered at the state level here in Florida. We've gone through that process with AICPA, and at the state level, there's also quite a bit of funding support as well. So
that's been critically important. Not only did we have a new CEO and CFO, about a year later, we had a new Chief Human Resources Officer as well, Natalie Weaver. And she's somebody that really has embraced the program. And in fact, the partnership with them has really made it a lot easier because there's a lot of upfront work involved from working with the Department of Labor and getting the apprentices registered, making sure you got the job on the job training list, and that you're working with HR from a talent development perspective and a performance appraisal process. So our HR department has been on the same mission as finance. So I think that's a critically important, I'm glad you brought it up, Thomas, critically important element is having the support from the CEO, and then all the way down the HR department really working on the leadership type development programs and programs like ours. In fact, our HR group, when they were right on the forefront, and they've come to FLAG summits with us and done presentations on the success of the program. So from opening the talent development aperture, they presented at the last FLAG meeting in San Diego, and then a year ago they were with me in I think it was in Orlando, where we presented what we're doing from an apprenticeship perspective. So they're getting national recognition. They didn't know it from it as well, and I think it's something that is critically important. I can't tell you how many times in my career where I've had issues with HR not being on the same page with finance, but we've got great collaboration with the teams. Our talent development and learning department is top notch, and that has really helped us a lot. We wouldn't be successful without their engagement. So it's been terrific. Thanks, Tom.
Miss Betty, as long as you're paying them a wage, there are some regulations there that Faith could help you through. I know that most of you, back in my day, I was an unpaid intern. That never happens anymore. You'd never be able to hire anybody. I fetched coffee. That's what I did when I was an intern. Who's with me? And I worked hard and I worked my way up. But no, as long as you're paying them a wage. Faith, you want to address that? Love that question, Betty. Thank you. So I'm going to have Faith speak. You're coming up next, right, Faith, again? Am I crazy? No. Okay, Faith, could you address the youth apprenticeship? And then I'll just kind of tie this broader into This is where potential collaboration, I see so much opportunity, Betty, with like junior achievement, DECA, et cetera, and our own high school programs that we do at FICPA to be able to partner with the local community here and offer this youth apprenticeship program, which is a direct entry. And go ahead, Faith. I was just joking with somebody. Was it you, Carlos, about we have to recruit them in 5th grade now? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, this is the way.
I was the same way in high school. Just like, got an A, and I was like, okay, I think this is what I'm going to pursue. It's the only thing I was good at.
Betty, I cannot picture you as a pediatrician. I'd love to see it, though. Anybody else have questions before we close? This is very interactive, so please don't hesitate. Sir, please. You do it all.
So you probably just have 1 or 2 apprentices, right? So you're starting small. It is not a heavy lift for managers at all. I think the mentorship is a heavier lift as far as spending time with them. But the toolkits that are provided by the AICPA and their continuance of support actually lays it all out. And I would think that in Florida, a lot of the work has already been done with the Department of Labor, but I'll defer to the AICPA and Shelley. So it should be much more straightforward than we were just starting it in Connecticut, and it was brand new. But at least, once you get past that initial registration, the ongoing management is not a lift at all. It's just a matter of being able to, as they're learning on the job and contributing, making sure that they're addressing the competencies that they need so that when they do graduate from the program, that they have the experience to become chartered global management accountants. So it's really just keeping track of that. So it's not a lot. Now we were new in Connecticut, and I've got a lot of apprentices, so it's more work on HR. But I would think, especially if you're starting small, it should not be a heavy lift at all. But I would defer maybe to Joanne and Faith if they know. It's self-paced, but you can time it. And we've done that where one of our lessons learned that I failed to mention is that we were off on timing when we did start with Kaplan. And the sessions, we were kind of off as far as like we were in a different starting point when they were, but you can time it so you're starting with, there's the possibility to time it so you're aligned with Kaplan. And you have the opportunity, I know some of the teammates, some of our apprentices, they've met people in that online session that they've gone, and had one-on-ones with to help them as well. So there is that opportunity for apprentices to make those connections.
Great questions. Great question.
Great, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if you can flash that chart, but I will tell you that there's a foundational level. So you except for the associate apprenticeship, everybody starts at least the operational level, and then they go down. I make all of our employees, I don't know if that makes me the most popular person, but I require them all, I don't care what level you started at, you have to complete the foundational level, which is sort of like business and accounting 101. I want them all because a lot of them may have accounting degrees, but they've been out of school, especially the upskilling, have been out of school a long time. I don't make them test out of those lower levels, but I make them complete it and get those certificates along the way. So it's really the foundational level, which is optional for a lot, that we made as a requirement to make sure everybody's starting kind of from the same base. And then you'll see that some of the skill sets there when they go into the studying, like in the operational level, there's digital finance, right? So you're building digital skills. And then later on in the strategic section, there's digital strategy. And then there's risk management, and there's risk around all things from an AI perspective, or I should say, not generative AI, but just AI, kind of like built in there, which would include machine learning and robotic process automation, those kind of things. And then as they're learning that, they're applying it to their jobs as they're going through the different areas, or their job in the one group that they happen to be in that are being upskilled. So it really is, it's like sort of like a mini MBA in finance, I think, in that they're getting all the different skill sets. I think of it that way. Yeah. So it really is, and it's not easy, right? I had one person fail the management case study by 1 point. I appealed, didn't win the appeal, but you know what? That that just shows she's coming back to Sydney for it now. I think she'll get her results next week. It's resilience, right? Like we all have to face adversity, and how do you get through that? So, and others have passed it on the first try or the second try. But it is something that I think anything that's really worthwhile, like they're going to really be proud when they got done, because it's not an easy route, right? But we supplement it with rewards and recognition along the way, and tell them to enjoy the journey. So don't be in such a rush. It's the learnings that really count. And some have gotten promoted. One of the great things, like I had mentioned, sorry to deviate a little bit, but I couldn't promote from within. Well, last year, I had an opening at a higher level. One of the apprentices I promoted from within, and that I backfilled that position with another apprentice that got promoted, and then backfilled that from a senior analyst that got promoted. So I was able to have 3 different employees move up within the organization. That created an opening at entry level, and I hired an apprentice. And that's sort of what my vision was, that we promote from within, and all new hires are apprentices that come in throughout the organization. So it's gratifying to see it start to come to fruition. So we started at the end of 22, really implementing it. So I am just getting my first graduates, right? Jeff Culp just graduated. I think he was one of the first graduates in the U.S. Just graduated. And he's actually, I've got a role for him. He's going to head up strategic planning in my group. He's going to be promoted in the June timeframe. You've got enough time to plan ahead on where you're going to place the apprentices once they graduate from the program. But that's critical that you're thinking about that, as they move through the program, right? To make sure that, the last thing you want to do is like, okay, I'm done. What do I do now, right? So you need to plan ahead. You need to make sure they've got the skill sets so they get the CGMA, and then what role are they going to play in the organization? One of the challenges that I've had is just keeping people in the program, not because they don't want to be in the program, but I've got other executives that are trying to steal them. Right? And I'm like, well, wait a second. They're part of this great program. I don't mind exporting the talent, right? That's a win-win. They're not leaving the company. But wait, let's calm down. Let's wait for them to complete the program. But because they've had the exposure and people have seen what they've been able to deliver, they're recognized as rising stars in the organization. And that means that there are people that are out there that say, oh, I wish I could have Shao on my team. I wish I could have Daryl, that kind of thing. So they backed off. I said it in a nice way. But yeah, I think that's a good problem to have, that they're seen as high performers in the organization, which really means we're getting the return on investment in that talent. Yes, so it could be a feeder program. We're hoping that we only have one so far, but we're hoping that when Nair graduates from that 1-year program, he's got a permanent job in accounting, that he may feed into the program. Now, he probably won't do the rotational program, but just upskill within the group and go through the program and work towards his CGMA while he's also going to school at night. We also have a great program as you're going through this, a partnership with Excelsior University, where you can earn, I think it's up to 18 credits while you're going to school at night for the work that you're doing in this program, which is terrific. And then that reminds me, Barry is releasing a pilot called the CGMA Accelerator Program. And that's for CPAs that come in at the strategic level, and they're piloting that program. They earn CPE credits while they go through the program and then become CGMAs. So that's for CPAs. We have two employees that are going to be part of that pilot program. So that's another area that we're looking to explore. So, yeah.
I want to keep taking questions, but your question just inspired me to give an example. I'm a visual learner myself. Our CPAs in the room. Think back to when you got your CPA, okay? I know it's been a while for some, okay? And before you tell me about back in my day, we had to take the exam all in one day and all the different things, just bear with me for a second. Imagine if when you were becoming a CPA, you could have been working on the job. And okay, it's time for me to take the audit section of the exam. And you're actually doing an audit rotation at your particular company or firm. And at the same time, you're taking online classes that are reinforcing what you just learned on the job. And then you're taking the exam. That is the apprenticeship model. And so what we're trying to do is really infiltrate and support and reinforce. The on-the-job training is reinforced with the related technical instruction. The related technical instruction is aligned with the competencies of what they're learning on the job. It's not one or the other. It's both things going like this at the same time. Think about your own CPA candidates in your companies or firms now. If they were able to do it that way on their path to CPA, wouldn't that be amazing? I'm championing this in the future, by the way. But oh my gosh, we can't have a meeting without talking about 150. Okay, I'll tell you what. I love this question, and I'm going to parking lot it because I'm going to close with it because there is a lot going on there, but I don't want to detract from apprenticeship. So if there's no other questions on that, I'm more than happy to go there on the 150 because I can tie it together like this. Watch me with the bow, okay? You guys ready? Okay. So I wish I had my slides added on my colored maps. Holistically right now, I know everybody is up to speed on this because all of you are reading the FICPA emails that come out every week. But right now, there are about 32 states in the US, including Florida, that have active legislation to introduce an additional pathway to CPA. So right now, we have the 150 credit hours plus 1 year of work experience. The majority of these states are introducing an additional pathway, otherwise known as the 120 plus 2, meaning you can get a bachelor's degree and get 2 years of work experience, and then, of course, pass that little thing called the CPA exam. Why is this important? This is important because for the first time ever, you have states moving en masse together at the same time. So all 6 of the large states, Florida, Texas, Illinois, California, Pennsylvania, and now New York. New York filed yesterday. I know we have many joint licensees in the room, are all moving in the same direction as well as our peers in the Southeast. Now, tying it back to apprenticeship for a second, if we think about this list of competencies, where I think the profession on the CPA side specifically is ultimately heading. How long it'll take us to get there, I really don't know. But imagine if we as a profession stop focusing on the inputs for how someone becomes a CPA, meaning credit hours, years of experience, time on the job, et cetera, and really focus on what is the standard that we want someone to achieve in order to say they are a licensed CPA. And then working backwards from there on how they reach that standard. If we can do that, and we as a profession can come up with a list of, I don't know how many it is, 300 competencies, skills, or what have you, that we feel are critical for folks to know to become a CPA, they still have to pass that exam. Imagine if you could use this type of program and then someone could say, okay, but I've already mastered these 50 skills, and I can prove to you that I've done it because I have this CGMA credential. And that will expedite my path to CPA because I've already got that credential. You guys see where I'm going there? So that's going to take a while. Please do not put that in the minutes. Don't put it on Twitter. That's just where I think the profession, because it's where I see most other professions going. You guys have probably seen in the news recently that for attorneys, many states are saying you can do apprenticeships in lieu of doing this. You're seeing it in the medical profession as well. So I think at some point we'll probably get there. But specific to the 150, additional pathways are being introduced. There are 4 states, Ohio, Virginia, Utah, and Indiana, that have already passed their legislation in the last 4 weeks. And about 25 others behind them. So please pay attention to communications coming out from us about this because it's really, really important, not only for pipeline purposes, but for your practice privileges and mobility across state lines. So never a meeting without 150, Barry. Yes. What other questions? Please. Yes, it is available. They may not have to do it through the apprenticeship program specifically, but they can do it through the online learning offered. Great question, Hector. If you couldn't hear him, he asked if there was a specific knowledge gap. If someone could just say, well, I need this particular segment, is that available? And yes, it is.
So we have about a little over 1,000 employees in finance. The CFO group is over 100, but the CFO role has evolved, so it's not the typical finance. I've got responsible. We launched a digital bank. I'll plug it right now, Owner's Bank, because we're here in Florida, although we haven't done much marketing in Florida yet, dedicated to small business. So that bank reports to me, and we also have digital banking reports to me, and a business transformation office is part of the overall CFO group right now. So I would say in regular accounting and finance and treasury and the core operations is about 60 or so. Yeah. And we have, the number of apprentices we have is, we had one graduate, another couple, so we've got about 13 apprentices right now. We're interviewing for one more. My vision is to hire 2 to 3 apprentices per year. We're a fast growing bank, so we need to keep up with the pace of change. So 2 to 3 apprentices a year, that we're looking to hire. And those are registered business partner apprenticeships and 1 associate apprentice a year. So, so around 3 or 4 apprentices a year is kind of like our growth path right now. And we might step that up because people are going to be graduating, right? And going into full-time roles where they're not rotating or they're moving up within the organization, which creates more openings. So you had mentioned the success of apprenticeships and turnover. Since we implemented the program, 0 voluntary turnover. So it's just been terrific from that perspective. 100% retention.
And what a great way to close,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I will say across all professions and industries, the national average for retention of apprentices in these programs is 91%. And that's including industries like my dear prior family and hospitality, right? It doesn't matter which profession or which industry, the common thread is the investment in the employee, and their investment is you back as the employer in this very structured training and development program. So we hope to really get this going here in South Florida. Thank you guys so much for coming today. Faith, may I just call on you? We're going to follow up with everybody via email with additional information. Obviously, let us know if you have any questions. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of many, many, many things that both AICPA and FICPA are doing to help you with your talent needs. So please don't hesitate. Don't be a stranger. Karen and Alina and Kat are here, our regional directors, and Ed, of course, and Karen, our chair and chair-elect, to represent you here in South Florida. So I thank you guys so much for coming. And for those on the public accounting side, Godspeed, my friends. You're almost there. Just a few more weeks, okay? And thank you to AICPA and Paul for coming all the way down.